right, ladies and gentlemen, it says it, so we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the www.welikepc.com. Well, we like sports PC. See, I knew I was going to mess that up. I didn't have my notes beside me. I was trying to stare into the screen and do it. Oh, well, you know what? It's still going to be a good show. You got me, the Gleek Geek Mike Valentine. You got Mitch, Moneybags, Mustache, Middlebrook right there. He's going to show us all of his gambling prowess here in just a little bit as we go through some things with him and with Vegas as we go through NFL, MLB, wow, and college football. Mitch may have to do the hosting of this show like he had to last week because I wasn't here. So I tell you what, but before we get going, I think I've got this down now, and you're going to see something that we did a long time ago come back today. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready? 20 seconds start now.
Oh.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
10 seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
Oh, look at that. Timed it all out, got it all going. No crazy stuff as of yet. We'll just keep crossing our fingers here. We got a lot more show to do, so we'll see what happens before it's all said and done. But today, on the Sportz Truth, we're going to hit you with a whole lot of stuff, hopefully about 90 minutes worth. Again, fingers crossed, I think it's going to be the theme of the show. So we have 3 NFL people. We are going to ask, do you believe in them? 2 players, 1 coach. There are 134 FBS schools. How many of them still have a shot at being bowl eligible? The answer might surprise you. It did me. We predict the landing spots of 5 MLB pitchers who are free agents this offseason on tonight's show. We're also going to look at who is the best rookie quarterback so far in the NFL season. And we're going to ask a couple questions. Can MLB allow the Dodgers to sign Shohei to a $700 million contract last year and now turn around and sign Juan Soto to a $600 million contract this year? He met with the Dodgers today, if you hadn't heard. And this one should be interesting. I can't wait to see it. Can Mitch Middlebrook be unbiased when he picks on his favorite NFL team? We're going to give you the odds and the answer coming up right here on the Sportz Truth. All right, buddy. Mitch, how you doing?
Good. You timed that perfectly, too, with the music. That was nice. I'm glad to have that back. It's been a while. It gets me pumped up, though.
It's a nice little intro, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do some more, actually. I'm so happy that we've got this stuff back. I'm going to go through here in just a second. And as we do the opening drive, we're actually going to have 2 opening drives today. And we're going to see which one you want to talk about in each segment. The opening drive, ladies and gentlemen, is where I give Mitch Middlebrook 3 questions that he doesn't know are coming. He decides which one, or every once in a while, I'll let him get away with 2 that he wants to talk about real quick. So we do this as our opening drive. It's about a 30-second long piece, and we'll do it right about now. All right, so I'll give you a little bit of breaking news that you may or may not have heard of. The Mets and the Rays got involved in a trade about 3 or 4 hours ago. And here's that breaking news if you want to talk about this. The Mets and Rays made a trade. You got Mets traded reliever Eric Orz, O-R-Z-E, I believe, to Tampa Bay for center fielder Jose Siri today. Interesting. In the win on Sunday, Detroit's first 7 drives went for touchdowns. The last team to do that, the 2007 Patriots. It's been a while. Sauce Gardner has gone 35 straight games without an interception. And in that span of time, in those 35 games, 375 different players have had an interception since Sauce Gardner had his last interception. So those are the 3, buddy. So the Mets and the Rays trade, Sunday's Detroit wins with 7 touchdowns, 4. Sauce Gardner has gone 35 straight games without an interception, yet 375 different people have gotten an interception in that time frame. So I'll let you kind of mull that over, let the hot stew a little bit here as I stall for a few more seconds, and you can tell me what you want to talk about.
Man, as much as I want to talk about the Lions, I'll try to be unbiased, at least for right now.
At least for right now?
At least for right now. But, man, I want to talk about this Sauce Gardner because I have always been on the Sauce Gardner is overrated train. I have been saying this since day one. He's never really impressed me. I think the hype has always been overblown, and that stat perfectly proves it. I mean, the guy gets blown out in coverage every game. I'm not saying he's a terrible corner. He's just not a true number 1 corner like everyone thinks he is. I'm sure, and I'm confident that Sauce Gardner would be a lockdown number 2, number 3 corner. But when he's up against number 1 guys every week, they're just torching him. And it's very rare that Sauce Gardner can, for an entire game, lock down his matchup. And he's in a really tough spot. Obviously, the Jets have a solid defense. They haven't been performing at all this year, but it's not just this year for Sauce Gardner. Like you said, it's the last 35 games. And for 375 other guys to get an interception in the time that he has is just unbelievable. For people to say that he's a top corner, probably most people, I think, coming into the season would say he was a top 5 corner in the league. There's just no way in my eyes.
And let me throw a little bit more fuel on this fire to help out your argument a little bit. Can you give me a top receiver in their division?
No.
New England doesn't have, right? New England doesn't have a top receiver, right? Not even Buffalo has a top receiver. Now, you could probably put Waddell in there in Miami as at least an upper echelon receiver. I'm not sure if I'd give him top, but pretty good. But beyond that, there's, of the teams that they play twice every year, there's not really a big-time receiver that he's up against, and he still has this awful stat.
Yep, exactly. I mean, he's always been overrated in my book, and that just completely shows it.
All right, now we will do another opening drive later on in the show. I got 3 more for you. So it's one of those things where I'm starting to go to different places and get all these different things, and then I have to try to narrow it down to 3. And kind of like when I'm asking you to narrow it down to 1, it's not as easy as everybody might think it is to just narrow it down to 1. So I'm going to do it twice today. But what we're going to do first is 4 down territory. All right, so we have 4 questions here in 4 down territory. We try to do 10 NFL questions in 4 different territories of the NFL. Doesn't always work out quite that way. But we're at least going to give you 4 interesting questions to ponder here with the NFL. We're going to talk about rookies, the quarterback position. We're going to say, do you believe in? And we're going to give you 2 players and a coach. Then we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson and our Twitter poll question that we put up today on him. And then, at the end of the segment, I can't wait for it, we're going to see if Mitch Moneybag Middlebrook is going to be unbiased. Because I am putting him on the spot, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to wait, and we're going to see he can be unbiased when predicting and put his money on his team. It's just heart, head kind of thing. We're gonna see how this all works out here in just a few minutes. So first of all, total touchdowns thrown. So I want to talk about first. Bo Nix has 19. Jake Daniels has 14. Drake May, with the limited number of games he has, is actually next at 10. And in fourth place, Caleb Williams with 9. All right, so put the question up here on the board. Feel like it's Family Feud. Is it safe to say Bo Nix is the best of the 4 rookie quarterbacks?
It's not safe to say that yet. Jaden Daniels is still his case. I think, the touchdown stat, I think, would surprise a lot of people because I think people are really high on Jaden Daniels and what he's been able to do in Washington this year. But I think, especially early on in the season, people were not high on Bo Nix, and they were already kind of saying, well, he's a bust. He can't do it. And he's shut some people up these last few weeks. He's playing really good ball right now, especially this last week against Atlanta. But to be leading this rookie QB race and Bo Nix kind of tightening it up in the last few weeks, I think, if you go back to week 5, Jaden Daniels was kind of running away with it, and he was kind of a tier ahead. Sure, he didn't have the touchdowns or all the stats, but he had the wins behind him. And that's what was really helping his case there. But this is a really, really fun QB rookie class. I'll tell you who's running away with last, and that's Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Bo Nix is the best of the rookie quarterbacks right now because he has steadily improved. Jaden Daniels, as you said, absolutely, positively correct. He started off hot. He's cooled off a little bit, right? The wins aren't there like they were in the beginning, but we all kind of knew that the wins, we all knew they weren't going to win 14, 15 games, right? We knew he was going to come back down to earth at some point. He's come back down to earth some, and Bo Nix has gone into the next stratosphere. So they were neck and neck. Now I really and it's not by a lot, right? It's by a slight margin, but I'm going to give Bo Nix the edge because of the division that they played. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs in that division, and I guess you could say, oh, we got the Philadelphia Eagles in the other division, but you've also got the awful Dallas Cowboys. And by the way, if you haven't seen last week's show, go back and look at it. We had some really good times with Cowboy Reggie and his son, the two gentlemen of the Sons of Star podcast. We'll plug that for them another time. Cowboy Reggie writes for us on www.welikesportspc.com as well. He does all the Dallas, not all of it, because we got 2 writers. I shouldn't say he does all of it, but he does quite a bit of the Dallas stories for us. He's got one up right now. And actually, and honestly, I want to throw this out there. Ricky Logan, if you're listening, good night, son. You are on fire. He has put 2 Cincinnati Reds articles out. Now, he knows that, we've kind of collaborated on a couple of these, and I'm the big Reds guy, too. He's a really big Reds guy. We have had 3,000 views on 2 Reds articles in the last 2 days. So big time out there. If you haven't got a chance to read those yet, go over to www.welikesportspc.com. It's affiliated with this podcast, and you'll be able to see those. So I'm going to say Bo Nix has pulled ahead a little bit, and you're still going to go with Jaden Daniels saying that he's ahead of Bo Nix, right?
Just barely. I think, like you said, it's really marginal. It's really close right now. I think if both the guys stay on the trajectory they're at right now, it's going to be Bo Nix by the end of the season. And, I think one thing that's worth noting, too, is if you're picking your ideal rookie QB's trajectory and development path, you really want it to look a lot more like Bo Nix's than Jaden Daniels is. And I'll say that because of the expectations. When you come into the league and you're winning games like Jaden Daniels was, that sets the expectation of, okay, this guy might not have all the stats. He might not have the yards and the touchdowns to do it, but he's winning games. And when that winning games goes away, because you're winning close games, when that goes away and your stats stay the same, you really don't have a leg to stand on. When Bo Nix comes and he steadily builds and builds every week, and you say, okay, it's there, he's working through some things, he's getting better each week, that's really the development you and your fan base want to see from your rookie quarterback, because then there's not this roller coaster and question mark every week of what you're going to get from him. It's a lot better to be steadily going up than to go up huge and then come back down and then maybe kind of flatten out, maybe go up, maybe go down a little bit each week. Because once you get those high expectations up there, it's really hard to forget that.
I don't know if I agree with you when you say that that's the quarterback that you want. I mean, it goes back to this whole: do you want Peyton Manning, the pocket passer, or do you want RG3 and Lamar Jackson, the guy who can throw and run like what Jaden Daniels can? You know, Bo Nix is more of the stay in the pocket, move from side to side, step up in the pocket, avoid pressure, and then still complete the pass. I don't know. I think I want the guy who can run a little bit more than what I do the guy who is more stationary. So what do you think about that, Andy?
I don't know. I want the guy that's stationary. I want the guy that I think they both kind of have that ability to get out of the pocket and scramble for a first down every now and again when they need to. The one edge I'll give to Bo Nix in that regard is he's a lot smarter to not take those big hits that Jaden Daniels
and a bigger guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He can absorb those hits. Now, I have to bring up Drake May for a minute. Again, he's not been in as many games as the other two quarterbacks go. He has 10 touchdowns. Daniels has 14. Bo Nix is running away with the touchdown mark at 19. But I would think Drake May, since we're talking about run, pass, stationary, not stationary, Drake May is kind of the hybrid of both Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, right? Because I've seen him run some, and I've seen him stand in the pocket and take the hit and still complete the pass.
Yeah, I agree. I think Drake May is a really good mix of both of them. I also think that Drake May's numbers are really impressive, and I'm glad you touched on them because I didn't want to pass over this. Drake May has by far the worst team around him out of any of these three rookie QBs.
Yeah. I don't know any of their receivers.
Yeah, he's got no offensive line whatsoever. He's going back out there and getting crushed every game. I mean, Jacoby Brissett couldn't even withstand half a season behind that O-line. So Drake May doing this with that O-line, with those no-name receivers, with really no run game to speak of besides goal line stuff. I mean, Drake May has really impressed me too. I will say I think they did it right. Not putting him out there right away and kind of letting him sit at least a few games behind Jacoby Brissett, I think is actually a good thing for him. And I mean, if he keeps this pace up, he could end up finishing second in TDs of rookie QBs this year. With on the pace he's at, he can easily outpace Jaden Daniels at least. I don't know if he's going to catch Bo, but he's up there.
Yeah, and that would be with, I believe, 5 less games as well. So now Jaden Daniels got hurt, but he didn't miss a game, right? He got hurt, but he still played the next week, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So then I got one more for you, and then we're going to move on to question 2. We're going to talk about, do you believe in ... right? So long-term, short-term. I think Bo Nix is the better quarterback short-term. You're going with Jaden Daniels. But let's bring Drake May and Caleb Williams. I was trying to combine the two of them together and give you Caleb May. Let's bring back Drake May and Caleb Williams into the equation again, and let's talk about long-term quarterbacks for a moment. Who do you think will be the best long-term quarterback? I mean, I know it's hard to predict, but let's try for a second.
I think that is really hard to predict. I go back and forth on this a lot because I don't know how much I want to hold it against him, and I don't know how much it's actually benefited him. But Bo Nix spent a long time in college, and he learned a lot, but he also at times regressed in college. And so I'm worried how he's going to handle that regression at this level. If, say next season he sees a bit of a sophomore slump, how is he going to react to that at this level? We know he handled it well at the college level, but he's also older. So each year that he goes along, he's going to lose some of that mobility. And I think that right now, especially, that's a big piece of what Bo Nix is doing. He's able to get out of the pocket and create some things in that Denver offense that might not be there otherwise. Honestly, it's a toss-up for me with these top three guys, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. I don't know who is going to be the best of them. I really like what I've seen of Drake May, and again, with how little he has around him, he's been who impresses me the most right now, and it's because he's doing it with so little people around him.
Right, not necessarily the numbers, but what he's becoming, right?
Exactly. And
go ahead.
I will just say Caleb Williams has not impressed me at all. Even this last week against Green Bay, his numbers looked a little bit better, but still didn't impress me. He's probably got the easiest. He's got the easiest way to be good, and he's not doing it. So I'll say right now, I think he's actually going to have the worst career of any of these guys.
Well, now come on, let's give the guy a break for a second. Okay, now I will tell you, I believe the Caleb Williams and Bo Nix comparison tells you this: no matter what kind of players you have around you, because I think we both agree, Caleb Williams has the most talent around him, right? Would you say that out of these four quarterbacks?
Yep.
But I also believe Bo Nix has the best coaching staff around him.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
would agree, and Caleb first, so I'll give him a break there. But still, I mean, it's even though the Bears coaching staff is so bad, I've seen plenty of gameplay and plenty of footage that shows, I won't say easy reads because nothing in the NFL comes easy, but reads that should be made and I think would be made by any other of these rookie QBs that Caleb Williams is not making. And sure, it's half on the coaching staff to put him in an ideal situation and ability to win games, but it still comes down to him, and so far he hasn't been able to do it.
All right, okay. So let's jump off this for a second. I like that first question. We dove in deep on that. Let's do this. Do you believe in? We're going to give you two players and one coach, and this is going to be some good discussion, I think. Here, I think we're this week. I made it apparent, and I don't know if you noticed it. I didn't give you near as many notes as I usually do. I kept some of this stuff secret as to how I'm gonna talk about it. I usually give you all the notes, like, okay, this is what I'm going to say, this, and then I let you kind of do your own argument, whatever you want to do. This week it's going to be really interesting between the two of us. And I wanted to kind of do an experiment this week. You guys are, thank you for being double digits, and the numbers just keep climbing as we keep going. We appreciate that. It's going to be a little different dynamic this week because we don't know what each other is going to do here. It's a little unscripted yet still scripted. So this should be good. A, do you believe in Anthony Richards? We'll start off yes or no. Do you believe in Anthony Richards? And I'll give some other notes.
This is really an in-betweener for me, but right now, no.
All right. It's supposed to be an in-betweener. That's why this guy over here that writes everything comes up with these great questions, right? I'm going to say that I think he learned his lesson. He got benched. He came back. And it's the same way. We'll probably do this next week if I like this segment. We'll talk about it after the show. All of you guys that are listening to us right now can talk to us right now. You just go up into the top right-hand part of your screen, click on comments, and you can type away. We'll put your comment on the screen just like the question is right now that I'm about to take back off of the screen because we're not on that question anymore. So, yeah, give us something to go with. We'll put you right up here on the screen. We appreciate all of you being with us tonight. Um, he he and Bryce Young, right? Bryce Young's kind of in this same boat, right? They benched him. They're like, oh, you're not good enough. Whatever he was told in his meetings, or whatever each of them were told. This was a little bit of a wake up call, I think, for Anthony Richards. And we were just talking about Caleb Williams, and I wonder. I'm going to throw this out there. I wonder if Caleb Williams doesn't need a wake up call. Right? I think Kyler Murray, for both of us, we live here in Arizona. I think when Kyler Murray first came in this league, he wasn't used to losing, and he started losing. And they kept putting the ball in his hand, and they kept saying, "Okay, buddy, make something happen." And he's like, "Man, this is different than college. This is different than high school. This is the NFL." And he was humbled a lot. And I think now you're seeing, in his, what is this, fourth season, I believe, for him. He's really starting to come into his own, and he's really starting to lead a first-place Arizona Cardinal team in that division. We'll talk about them here in the next show or two. I think they're set up pretty good, and I think the rest of that division is set up pretty bad. Actually, we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes when we get to it. But I think Anthony Richards has learned his lesson. So I'm going to say that I believe in him. He led the Colts to a victory over the Jets. He went 20 for 30, 272 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That touchdown that he scored at the end of the game, that old boy just lowered his shoulder and knocked the other guy out of the way and said, "I am scoring. We are winning." That showed me something. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think when he's on the field, and I do think it was a big wake-up call, I think when he's on the field, it's hard not to believe in him. I think what makes me really question it and what makes me say no is his ability to stay on the field. Now we've seen his ability to stay on the field come down to 2 things. 1, his health, and 2, his decision-making. His decision-making in how he speaks to the media, what he's showing to the public. Because, in my opinion, his benching did not come down to his play. I don't think anybody in that Colts organization thought, you know what, who's going to get us to the postseason this year is 50-year-old Joe Flacco back there. I don't think anybody thought, take Anthony Richardson out because Joe Flacco gives us the better shot at winning throughout the whole season. I think they thought, wow, this is a really bad look. Anthony Richardson telling people he took himself out of the game because he was tired after a long play. I think that was the wake-up call for him. But again, so now it's his mental that's taking him out of the game and his physical that's taking him out of the game. And if he can't get those 2 things right and be able to be on the field, there's nothing to believe in. So I agree. He really impresses me when he's out on the field, and man, can he make some plays? He's got a great long ball, but even that run that you're talking about to end the game there and to get that last touchdown, he took a lot of big hits there. And if you can only take so many of those as a quarterback and still be able to effectively quarterback for a 17-game season. So, well, that's kind of where I'm at with him. I believe in him when he's on the field, but it's can he stay on the field?
All right. Now, he did have some bad, right? He did have 2 fumbles. He lost one of them. He did throw 1 interception, and he did take 2 sacks. So it's not like he had, a glorious game or anything like that. But he had an improved game. And I think 2 things. I think, 1, he has to stay humble. And I think, 2, much like Bo Nix has done, we'll go back to the question previous to this, much like Bo has done, he needs to improve a little as the season goes on and as the seasons go on. All right, so that's number 1. Do you believe in Anthony Richardson? I said yes. You said no. Let's see if we disagree on the second quarterback that we're going to talk about here. Do you believe, Mitch Middlebrook, do you believe in Sam Darnold? Yes or no?
Not long term. No, I don't believe in Sam Darnold. I think he's a good kind of bridge for the Vikings until they get J.J. McCarthy back and see what he can do. But I don't believe in Sam Darnold long term. I think he's coming back down to earth these last few weeks. Definitely the Vikings offense has looked pretty poor. the last 3-4 weeks here now. And I think this is kind of what we expected of Sam Darnold throughout the season. Those first 6 weeks were just, he was playing out of his mind. And good for him there. I mean, he was a front runner in the MVP voting for a while there. But yeah, and I think this is where we expect to see Sam Darnold. So long term, no, I don't believe in him. I will say I do believe in him as a backup quarterback. He's probably one of, if not the best backup quarterback in the NFL. But that's truly where I see him at. I don't see him as a starting quarterback, but I would be really happy if he's my backup quarterback in case of injury, like the Vikings are seeing right now.
Okay, I can get on board with that actually. I still think that he is a decent quarterback. Let me give you some stats here. He turned the ball over 6 times in the last 2 weeks, but not on Sunday. He defeated, it's a 2-8 Tennessee Titans team, but he did defeat them. So my second question, my kind of backup question here is: can the Vikings get to the playoffs with Sam Darnold as their quarterback?
No, I don't think so. I really think, especially, if they were in the AFC, maybe in that final wild card spot, I just really think the NFC is, you're not going to see a team without double-digit wins in the postseason out of the NFC this year. There's just too many good teams, too many good records right now, and I don't really believe that Sam Darnold can do it for the Vikings. I will say I'm not sure what the rest of their schedule looks like for the season, and they started out really hot, so they do have a better chance than I think anybody would have given them a shot at the beginning of the season. But I just don't see him getting it done. There's too many good teams in the NFC, and honestly, we might see every team in the NFC go in with either 10 or 11 regular season wins in the postseason.
Okay. So I'm with you. I'm with you on this one. I know we disagreed on Anthony Richards, and that's fine. We're allowed to do that. We're debating this stuff, and it's not like we're going to be upset with each other. We're not going to shank each other later for the guy that worked in the prison system. But we're not going to do that to each other later when we see, just because we disagree on something. So you were no on Anthony Richards, and you were no on Sam Darnold. I was yes on Anthony Richards, and I'm going to be with you on Sam Darnold. And I'm going to say no as well. And I love what you said about the backup quarterback. I do. I think Sam Darnold, that's where he's at right. Can he? Is he a viable quarterback to get you by for 2 or 3 weeks while your main quarterback is hurt or whatever, he's suspended or whatever it is? Yes, he is that. But can he get you a 17-week season and be your quarterback and you make the playoffs? I don't think that's it. Now, here's the one I really want to dive into: the coach. So we talked about Anthony Richards, the player. We talked about Sam Darnold, the player. Now let's talk about Kyle Shanahan, the coach. So, Mitch, before we dive into numbers and stuff here, do you still believe in Kyle Shanahan? Yes or no, buddy?
I do actually believe in Kyle Shanahan.
All right, we're going to disagree on this one too. That's okay. So let me give you some numbers here. His 49ers are 5-5 currently, and they are 1-3 in the division. Is he a top 10 coach, Mitch? I mean, isn't he kind of vaulted as a top 10 coach?
Yeah, I think, the start of the season, if you're ranking him outside of the top 10 coaches, you're crazy, especially what he's done for the 49ers the last few seasons.
But he's 5-5.
Right now he's 5-5, but he's also taken the 49ers to the Super Bowl 2 times in the last 4 years. He's made it to the NFC Championship, I think, 3 of the last 4 years. I mean, his resume as a coach, and especially of the 49ers as a head coach, it really stands up against the best in the NFL right now. Definitely top 10. I think it's shaky right now, but a lot of it comes down to the injuries that the 49ers are facing. A lot of it comes down to, I think, the cockiness that they're at right now. And, for a while, the NFC West has gone through San Francisco and the 49ers, and they could kind of do whatever they wanted, and they were still going to end up winning the NFC West. Right now, this is the difference in their season, is games against the NFC West. Like you said, 1-3 against the NFC West this year. They've taken these games too lightly, and every team deals with injuries, so you can't give them too much of a break there. But they're all one-score games that they're losing. But in division, those losses, whether it's one score or not, those really, really hurt you, and that's why we see the 49ers at 5-5 right now.
Absolutely. I agree with those. They really hurt you. But, I mean, they lost to the Arizona Cardinals at home. I'm not sure how good the Cardinals are.
Yeah.
I would, we both live here in Arizona, so I would love to beat the Cardinal drum and say, oh, yeah, they're the best team in the division. But I don't know if that's true yet or not, right? They lost to Seattle here this past week. They had that game won, and they let Seattle come back and beat them. Now, I know they've had some injury problems, but a good coach takes his injury-riddled team and still wins games that he's supposed to win, like against the Seahawks and like against the Arizona Cardinals. And he's not doing that. So, last year they were like, oh, it's his defense. His offense is great. His defense is terrible. So what did he do? He waited till the season was over and he fired Steve Wilks, right? He's like, oh, this guy's a bum. We don't need him here anymore. I'm the coaching guru. I know what I'm doing, yada, 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 right? And now Steve Wilks is gone. Who are you going to blame this year?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's still too early to say that he's not a top 10 coach. I think we give him to the end of the season. The 49ers in the NFC West is nowhere near one. And the 49ers are not done. They're still going to make a push. They got Christian McCaffrey back and they're building. It was a close game, but it's a bad loss against the Seahawks last week, and to lose that game, they really needed to pick that one up. But they're still 5-5, and that NFC West is still very winnable for really any team. Probably maybe not the Seahawks. They might be a little. They got the longest road, but I still think they could win the NFC West in it, and if they do. People will actually be giving Shanahan some respect for overcoming the adversity this season.
All right, so I'm going to predict that I know you've seen this part in the notes. I gave this part to you. They're going to be 5-7 because they're going to lose the next 2 weeks. They have to go to Green Bay, so it's a warm California team going to the frozen tundra of Green Bay, right? As Chris Berman used to say all the time, right? And then you've got the next week, they have to go on the road again, but this time clear across the country to another cold weather spot in Buffalo, New York, and play the Bills. What do you think about my prediction? The San Francisco 49ers will be 5-7 in 2 weeks.
I could see that. I could also easily see the Packers not showing up next week and them being 6-6 after these next 2 weeks. I think no matter what, that's going to be a loss in Buffalo. The home field advantage in Green Bay is huge for the Packers, but they did not look good against the Bears, and it's always hard to gauge those games against the Bears because it is such a big rivalry, but you also expect the Packers to win those games and win them handily. They did not win that game handily. It was really close, and honestly, they were a few plays away from losing that game. So I really don't know what to expect of the Packers, and more so of Jordan Love right now. Jordan Love has to figure out how to take care of the football, and if he gives the ball up like he has been, that 49ers defense, and especially Fred Warner, is going to have a field day with him. So I could also see them going into Green Bay and upsetting them, even though it is, the hot, cold weather. But if Green Bay plays neat and clean football, they'll win that game. And yeah, I do agree with you. They would be 5-7. It's just really up to how Green Bay shows up.
Okay, so let's look at our Twitter poll question. That's our next thing we're going to do here. Let me go over here to our Twitter account real fast. It is at The643&Out pod. Here's the Twitter poll question. I'll ask you for your opinion. Then I'll tell you what our viewers on Twitter, 141 of them have looked at this here. We've got some votes on it. It says, in order for Lamar Jackson to win MVP, do the Ravens have to win the AFC North? What do you think, buddy? Do they have to win the AFC North in order for Lamar Jackson to win the MVP?
No, actually, I don't think they have to. And I'll tell you the exact scenario, and I think the only scenario that they don't have to win the North with and have Lamar win MVP. They need a lot of help elsewhere. They need to help themselves, one, by winning as many games as possible and keeping it close in the division. With this loss to the Steelers this week, I could easily see them losing the division to the Steelers because the Steelers are on a roll, man. They are hot. That is a feisty team, and Russell Wilson has absolutely energized that team to where he used to bring those Seahawks teams to. I don't know what happened in Denver, or who that was. I think there was an impersonator filling in for Russ in his time in Denver, but he's back to what we saw him as in his prime in Seattle, and that's really scary for the North there. So I could see the Steelers winning the North. I could see the Ravens continuing on. They still have a great record, 7-3. But I could see Lamar, if he stays on the pace that he's at and Josh Allen drops down a little bit from where he's at, he could still win the MVP this season without winning the AFC North.
So do you think he's still going to win if Buffalo wins their division and Kansas City wins their division, but yet the Ravens don't win theirs, and you're going to have a choice between Josh Allen and that guy that quarterbacks Taylor's team and Lamar Jackson? Do you still think Lamar comes out on top if they finish second and Buffalo and Taylor's team finishes first?
No, and I don't even think that Pat Mahomes comes into this conversation. I think the only way that happens is if they rig it even more, and if the writers just hand Pat Mahomes an MVP that he isn't even close to deserving. But I think if Josh Allen and the Bills continue on the pace that they're on, it's Josh Allen's to lose. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if the Ravens do win the AFC North. I think if the Bills keep playing how they're playing, win their division, it's going to be Josh Allen MVP, and Lamar really can't do anything to stop that, even if they do win.
All right, well, Cowboy Reggie has commented on our poll here. He says a definite yes, and the Twitter person agrees with him. 70% of our fans say yes, Lamar must the Ravens must win the NFC North in order for Lamar to win, and 30% say that he doesn't have to. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting, I think. I didn't think it would be quite that widespread there from the 70-30, but that's what our fans are saying. Now, it's time. Can Mitch Middlebrook be unbiased? Here we go. The Lions currently have 9 wins, Mitch. Their schedule is as follows. It's at the bottom of the page, and I'm getting old here, so the glasses are kind of failing me a little bit. Let me pull this up so I can see this and make sure we get this correct. So their schedule is Colts, Bears, in this order, by the way. Colts, Bears, Packers, Bills, Bears again, 49ers, and Vikings. So my first question is, what does Vegas have for their record at the end of the season? What are they saying, sir?
Yeah, they've got the Lions over/under win total right now at 13.5. So like you said, sitting at 9-1 right now, 7 season. That's going to be a really tough win total to get to when you're talking about facing the Bills, facing the 49ers. The Bears twice is going to help them out a lot there, I think. But still, an interdivision game, and those do never come easy. A team like that can surprise you if you take them too easily, and you're looking past it. The Packers, that's always going to be a close game. I don't know how biased.
Before you give me your answer, because I'm afraid you're going to here, let me give you some positives on your Bears to kind of see if I can twist you around a little bit here, right? So currently they're sixth in passing yards, they're third in rushing yards in the league, which I didn't think they were that high in rushing yards, but they certainly are. And then in total yards per game, they're third again. So they are top 6 in the 3 major categories and top 3 in 2 of those 3 major categories. Now, what do you think about what they say, 13 and a half, and they've got 9 wins now? So you've got to get. Okay, so let me just ask. First, can you be unbiased? Second, give me your answer. Over or under 13 and a half?
Well, I'll let you tell me if you think this is unbiased, because I really don't think it is. I think just looking at this team, and you're right, like the stats back it up, I think. I do think they get 14 wins this season, and I think that's right where they're at. I could see them getting 15 too, if they can pick up 2 out of 3 games against the Packers, Bills, and 49ers. I think the question mark here is the Packers game and the 49ers game.
All right.
If the 49ers are playing their best football end of December when they go out there into San Francisco and play, that's going to be a really tough game. But I give the edge to Detroit because they have the fire under them from losing that NFC Championship game against San Francisco last year. I think that's going to be the extra motivation they need. The other thing is it's really a toss-up because the Lions may have nothing to play for at that point. If the Lions do what they need to do these next few weeks, and especially if they can beat the Bills, they're not going to have anything to play for when they go out to San Francisco and play the 49ers. So they may take their foot off the gas a little bit, even though that is going to be a big game for them. So that one's really tough for me. I do think they'll beat the Colts. I think they'll sweep the Bears this season. The Packers one, yep, there's 3. I think the Packers is a tough one too. I could see it going either way. They've had their way with the Packers recently, so I think that continues, and they pick up that 14th win there. 13th win there.
Okay, so pick up 13 after, right? What about Vikings?
And then, or do they have the Vikings?
Yeah, the very last game. They played the Vikings the very last game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's even easier then. Sorry, I was just looking at week 16. Colts,
Bears, Packers, Bills, Bears again, Niners, and then Vikings.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's 14. I think, I really don't see
that 15th win. That's the question here, right? That's what Vegas is teasing you with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where I'm going to make you choose here. Are you going to take the over or the under? Because if you take the over, if I understand gambling right and simple math, right, you got to get the 15 wins if you take the over in order to win, right?
Well, they're at 13 and a half, so you only need 14. So I think no matter what, I'm taking the over at 13 and a half. At 14 and a half, the odds are even better. So right now they've got the over-under set in Vegas at 13 and a half wins. You can actually change it yourself and change it to 14 or 14 and a half. So right now the 13 and a half line is at minus 150 for yes to go over. My screen froze up on me here. It's not letting me change it to 14 and a half. But if you really do think they're going to get 15, which I think they have a really good chance, you really want to bump this line up to 14 and a half and take that because that's going to be plus money. So I am saying over. It might be biased. It might be a tiny bit biased, but I think the stats are there to back it up. And the way this team is played and the way Dan Campbell is, I don't see this team letting up and taking their foot off the gas. So I really do think they're going to strive for as many as they can get, even if they don't need it.
I have to tell you, Dan Campbell's my favorite coach in the NFL right now. We're going to talk about my favorite coach in college football here in just a little bit. You may see the maroon shirt. I haven't shown you the logo on the front of it quite yet. I will here in a little bit, but that might give you a hint as to who my favorite college coach is right now. I watched him on Sunday, and man, that guy was firing me up, and I ain't even playing for him. So it's fantastic. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. I do want to paint this picture for you, though. San Francisco plays Detroit the next to last game of the season. And I don't know if you looked at their schedule enough. They play the Cardinals the last game of the season. They could literally be battling with the Cardinals for the top spot in that division, right?
Yep.
And then they need that win against Detroit, like you were saying, more than Detroit needs that win against San Francisco. So plan these future things out, right? Like how you guys do your gambling stuff a lot, how you kind of plan this stuff out. I don't know. Vegas doesn't like to lose, and they very rarely do. So I thought this was a nice exercise. You being the Detroit fan, me painting some pictures for you and giving you some information, and then letting you see exactly what you want to do to see if
I want to give you a little bonus here that we don't have in the show notes, because I think this line is really interesting to me.
Go ahead.
And I want to see if you can be unbiased.
Oh, here we go. I think I know where this is going.
So right now Vegas has the Cincinnati Bengals over under win total at 7.5. What are you doing there?
Well, they've got 4 right now. They play Pittsburgh twice. I don't have their schedule in front of me. Daggone it! You caught me off guard.
I can get it here. I'll let you finish here. I'll give you their schedule. So this week they got a tough one in division against the Steelers. Then they've got Cowboys, Titans, Browns, Broncos, and then they finish the regular season in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. So like you said, they're at 4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
But this weekend's going to be tough, but those 3-4 games stretch after this weekend, they've got the Cowboys, Titans, Browns, and Broncos, and they only need to win 4 of those to hit the over.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty clear. I'm going to go with the over just because of those 4 games you were just talking about. I think they can beat the Steelers at least once. I don't know if they can beat them both times, but they can beat them once. Because the Steelers play a different game. I almost threw this stat in there when we were looking at, we're going to do another opening drive. It's not going to be opening anything, but it's going to be another opening drive here in a minute. And if you, I think I put it up on our Twitter page at The643&Out pod. The scores in the last 7 times that the Ravens and the Steelers have played are like eerily similar. They're all within like 15 to 20. Both teams score between 15 and 20 points, yet the Steelers have won, I believe, 6 of the last 7. It's remarkable how they've been able to do that. And Baltimore has pulled out those wins against Cincinnati, although, I think that a lot of us have seen how the reffing is this season. Even in that game against, and I'm really trying not to be a crybaby here and be like, they really should have never got behind like they got behind. Don't get me wrong. I almost gave up and just turned the TV off.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated with them. But there should have been an intentional grounding on Herbert there at the end of the game. They should have never been able to kick that field goal at the end. I tweeted that out while I was watching the game. The horse collar tackle that they called on Sam Hubbard, where he went absolutely ballistic, was not a horse collar tackle. That gave them the first down, the extra 15 yards, and all of that. And that led to then, I believe, 2 plays later was the intentional grounding play, and it got them 3 more points. And they ended up winning that because of it. So there's a lot of different things that happened in that game that were, we'll say, questionable. And the problem is, I put this out in the Twitterverse on Sunday too. I was like, what did Mike Brown do to the NFL to piss them off so bad that they're just like, nope, they ain't winning? Because it really seems like that they've got it out for him this year. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to be a crybaby, but I will take, to answer your question, I'll take the over on that, and um, I'll take my chances on the over. I would also take my chances on the Bengals. Still, believe it or not, I'm still going to be with them, still making the playoffs because of where the Colts and the Broncos. So if they can beat the Broncos, they'll have the leg up on them. They'll own that tiebreaker, and then they don't play the Colts this season. So the Colts are going to have to help us out a little bit. I don't know what their schedule is exactly. I should have looked, but I have not. So I'm still going to ride with the Bengals, and I'm going to go with Joe Burrow before I go with any of the other quarterbacks on any of those other teams that we've talked about, even Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, buddy. Let's do a little promo here for a second. Let's start this up. All right. So the Sportz Truth is proud to have recently joined forces with a group called Sportz. You see us doing hashtag Sportz on a lot of our stuff. Don't freak out about it. Don't wonder what it is. I'm about to tell you. Don't get scared because some people do. It's a platform to where a group of guys, myself included, here with the 643&Out pod, have decided to get on a platform that joins sports and Bitcoin. Again, get scared. Don't say that. Don't get scared. No, they won't. It'll be fine. We're getting it all put together, and we're getting everything on the right track. So, it's a group of guys really helping us with our promotional. We're helping them with their promotional as well. Jump on board with it. Hashtag SportPoint. As we here at the 643&Out guys on the Sportz Truth podcast are very proud to join up with them. And by the way, if you like that promo, you're listening right now and you're like, not bad, buddy. Darn right it's not bad. Give us some money. I'll promo you too. All right. College football checkdown. There are. Let's see. I should have had this a little more ready, right? I don't know. Let's pick one. That one. 134 teams in FBS right now. With only 2 weeks to go in the regular season. Can you believe it? Only 2 weeks to go in the regular season of college football is done. Over 100 of them still have a chance to be bowl eligible. It's crazy. Over 100 of the 134 teams still have a chance to be bowl eligible. Only 31 of those teams have already been eliminated. I'm going to break it down for you a little further here. 68 teams already have 6+ wins that it takes to be bowl eligible, and they are thus bowl eligible. So there'll be 82 teams in college football. We'll call it postseason, right? All the bowl games, all the the top 12 that have been announced, and all that. Of the 134 teams, 100 of them, over 100 of them then, are still bowl eligible. So here's my first question. I've got 3 for you, buddy. Does this mean that the transfer portal is giving us better games?
Yes, I think that's exactly what it means. I think that
I did not think you were going to go that way. I really didn't. I'm proud.
No, I think that's exactly what is the main contributor to this. I think it's clearly the transfer portal. It has done, sure, all the things we can say negative about the transfer portal. It has done good things for the state of college football, and honestly, the NIL money allowing players to go other places than just Alabama, Florida, all the big schools and programs, and still get paid and make good money for themselves and their family. I think it's done a lot for college football and the parity in college football. And I think this is an exact representation of what we're seeing through the transfer portal and NIL.
I'm really proud of you, buddy. I mean, you have been against this portal thing almost the entire college football season. Every time I bring this up, I don't know, the look of disgust comes over your mustache, and it's just like, no. Are Are you starting to come around to the Cleat Geek side here and seeing the transfer portal might not be as bad as you thought it was?
Yeah, I am really. I think, there's still some things that I want to tweak about the transfer portal and some handcuffs, if you will, that I want to put on it because I think it can kind of be out of control at some points. But I do think it's a net positive, and it will continue to get better if they do make the small tweaks that they need to. And I think this is one of the first signs that we're seeing of the transfer portal and NIL actually working the way they intended it to.
All right. So are we getting better play from the high skill positions? Are we getting better play from the medium skill and low skill positions? Or are we getting better play because of this transfer portal from all the above? And let me clarify this a minute. So if you're not starting on the team, right? If you're at Ohio State, or if you're at Michigan, or if you're at Oregon, Florida, one of these big teams, Alabama, Georgia, and you're like the third string offensive lineman, right? But yet you've got a chance to go to Arizona State, Oklahoma State, some of these, we'll call them mid-range colleges, right? And you got a chance to go from being third string at Georgia to the starting linebacker in Arizona State. A lot of these kids are jumping ship, and they're like, I want to start. So that's where I'm going here. We talked about this a few weeks ago, actually. So what do you think? I'll ask you the question again. Are we getting better play from the high skill positions, the medium skill, the low skill positions, or are we getting better overall play because of this transfer?
Yeah, I think it's that medium and low skill that we're really seeing the rise from. And I think because those guys had been sitting on the bench for so long behind these huge names and top recruits, we really didn't get a chance to see them play much. The only time we got a chance to see these guys step in is when it was from injury. And so now that there's so many more opportunities for them to go and step up, and have that competition elsewhere, we're seeing a lot better play from these guys. And I think really what it comes down to is the life is back in the sport. We're seeing the life and the hope of, you know what, maybe I can work my way into this starting role. If I go somewhere else, I can still make my money. It's still a great college experience. We're still going to be bowl eligible at the end of the year. And that's exactly where I see the increase. The top players are still the top players, and they're not going anywhere. They're either happy with the athletic department where they're at, or they're making enough money that they don't care if their team's not doing well, like Florida State.
I completely agree. Again, we were both kind of on the transfer portal. I was jumping into it a little more than you were, but man, I'm not going to say this is bad it's got its detraction. Kind of like what you said. It does have a few things that I wish they would change. Maybe we'll talk about that in the coming weeks as like maybe we'll do the 3 things that we would change if we were in that situation and in that spot in college football. Yeah, an interesting topic, I think. I can keep that in the back of my old man brain. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I also think that the third question here kind of ties into this one, and I'll ask it this way, because I think this will hit it home for everybody who's listening to us. And again, we're still climbing in numbers. Thank you all very much. Mitch, real quick, where can they get you out on Twitter, buddy?
Yeah, you'll find me down below. My @ is @MitchellBrook52.
All right. Excellent. So is the transfer portal giving second-tier stars a chance to shine and second-tier programs a better chance to win?
Yeah, I think it all goes hand in hand right now. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is exactly what the transfer portal is designed to do.
Absolutely.
It's, I've really turned around on it, as you've mentioned. I think that we're at a point now that the transfer portal is getting better. I think when it first started, it was just such a madhouse that nobody really knew, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I'm seeing all this stuff I've never seen before. But this was the vision, and this was kind of the playbook of what they thought a success from the transfer portal would be. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 134 FBS teams, over 100 of them still eligible for a bowl game. Competitive season, upsets we haven't seen before. Vanderbilt beating Alabama, things like that. I mean, that you can almost directly attribute that stuff to the transfer portal.
Absolutely. So, how many states do we have in the top 25, right? We got Iowa State. We got Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
We got all of these teams that, Tulane is in the top 25.
Yeah.
Arizona State is in the top 25 right now. We'll talk about them in a couple minutes. I do, man. This is one of the best college football seasons I can remember, as far as competitiveness, as far as like this weekend. We got a bunch of games that I'm going to have to record a bunch of this stuff because I can't watch them all at once. But I want to make sure I see these games. And in fact, I've got some. I'm going to call them Big 12 big upsets here in just a minute. How we're going to conclude this segment. I got some for you. I didn't put those on the show notes because I wanted to see your reaction after we talk about them here in a couple minutes. So, yeah, I mean, the Indianas of the world, right? Indiana has never gone 10-0. Indiana has never done this and has never done that. And we're going to segue right into it here. Because of the transfer portal, it's allowed teams like Indiana to come up. And now they play Ohio State this weekend. A big game. ESPN's there, College Game Day's there. I mean, everybody's there. And there's some other big games this weekend that can decide a lot of stuff. So I'll get to that here in just a moment. Our second part of college football checkdown is this. I say this a lot because maybe it's because I write this whole thing and I'm like, okay, this will be good. This will be good. And I figure out how I want to write everything, how I want to do follow-ups on everything. This is just a long process for me. So, did Indiana jump the gun on giving their head coach Kurt Cignetti, I think is how you say his name? It's terrible. I don't even know how to say the guy's name, and I know. So did Indiana jump the gun on giving him a contract extension?
Yes. Yes, they did, and they did it by like a week and a half too early. If Indiana would have waited to see how this game goes in Columbus, this would be a totally different situation and answer for me. Indiana hasn't played anybody this season. And sure, they're 10-0. They never have been before, but they still haven't played anybody. And they're blowing teams out. Don't get me wrong. Indiana's a great football team. I'm not taking anything away from them.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I said beating who they're supposed to beat, right?
Exactly. And they're beating up on them good. But there's still no impressive wins here, really. So I think that's a long time to extend somebody, and to do it when they still haven't beaten anybody. I think you give it another week, 2 weeks, and see how they do against Ohio State to see if this team really is legit and what it comes down to. Is it coaching? Is it players? And two, how do they respond to it if they don't play well in Columbus? I think you do that before you extend them like this.
Okay, so Indiana gave him an 8-year extension. That's why you said I wouldn't have given him an extension this long. I agree with you on that point. I think I would have extended him. We'll talk about why here in a second. I don't know if I would have extended him 8 seasons. So they extended him 8 seasons, $8 million a season. So I think both of us agree the extension was too long, and it actually doubles his money. This year he's making $4 million, and then they're going to completely double that, and they're going to double it for 8 seasons.
Yeah,
I think they're nuts.
I agree, and I think it's a good move by Indiana to say, hey, you know what, coach, we appreciate you for what you've done this season. You can give a contract like that out of appreciation and respect for what they've done this season.
Not a contract like that.
Not for 8 years. Not for 8 years.
Right. You want to extend him 4 years?
Yep.
3 years with an option? Something like that? Okay. But 8 years? And again, do you have their schedule pulled up in front of you? You were looking at it like you had their schedule pulled up in front of you. Do you? All right. Yep. So tell me who they beat. Go down the list.
I mean, they beat Michigan, Michigan State, Washington, Nebraska, Northwestern, Maryland, Charlotte, UCLA, Western Illinois, FIU, and that's it. Indiana.
None of those, right? None.
Yeah.
Did not beat Penn State. They've not challenged Oregon. They've not gone to even Rutgers, who's a decent team in the Big Ten this year. They haven't done any of that. So, but I think they're rewarding him because of his nevers, is how I put it. Right? Indiana has never gone 10-0. They're 10-0. Right? If they beat Ohio State, which I don't think they're going to do, but if they pull it out and they beat Ohio State, they will play in the Big Ten title game. And can you believe this? Indiana has never played in the Big Ten title game in college football. They've always been a basketball school, right? So I think they're paying him for his nevers, and I also think they're paying him because they're scared. They're scared that some other team is going to swoop in there and grab him, and they're going to lose this nostalgia that they happen to get. So they're trying to keep him in Indiana, so they sweeten the pot, they sweeten the deal, and they're trying to get him to stay there. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, if somehow they do go into Columbus and beat Ohio State this weekend, I think we might view this extension a little bit easier on Indiana. I think that's what you have to do if you're in the Big Ten. You got to beat the big guys like Oregon. They're not on their schedule this season. Okay, who do you have next? You got Ohio State. You got to beat them. If your head coach can do that, and what that does for them in the college football playoffs is huge. That could very well, if they beat Ohio State next weekend and they sneak into a number 2, number 3 seed in the college football playoffs, that may vary. The revenue they get from the college football playoffs, if they do well in it, that could very well pay that contract extension right there in one college football playoff. And then we're looking at this and saying, you know what? That's actually a pretty team-friendly deal. So it really all just depends on this weekend, and I think that's why I would have liked to see them wait another week or two to really get a better feel of where they're at.
Okay, so we've got 2 more things to point out here on this particular topic, and then we're going to jump to ASU finally getting the respect they deserve. I've been waiting. I made it to the end, right? So should they have waited until after the Ohio State game? Now, there's yeses and nos to this, right? If they beat Ohio State, then the coach can pretty much say, okay, well, everybody's going to be begging for me to come to their school, so you're going to have to pay me big. He probably would have gotten more than either 8 years, or he would have gotten more than $8 million per year. So I do see where Indiana would strike before this game and say, we're just going to assume, we're just going to hope, we're just going to, maybe it's the theme of the show again, we're just going to cross our fingers, right, that we at least are competitive with Ohio State on Saturday, and hope that he stays here, hope that he can continue to improve the team, and we continue to get top 3 finishes in the Big Ten. So I think Indiana would be happy with that, knowing where they have been. What do you think about that? And is that why they struck before the Ohio State?
Yeah, agreed. I do think that's why, and I think that's really why this week is going to be a huge indicator and will tell me whether it was a good or a bad extension for him.
All right. And I also want to give the coach, Kurt Cignetti, and I think that's how you pronounce it. If somebody's going to tell me I'm crazy, that's fine. You can yell at me in the comments, or you can, Twitter troll me or whatever you want to do there. But I believe I want to give him his flowers here too. So he received his first coaching job in 2011 at IUP, and he went 53-17. I don't even know what IUP is. I couldn't even tell you what that stands for. No clue. Then he went 14-9 with a team called Elon, E-L-O-N. Then he went to James Madison. Okay, well, I know what James Madison is. God, first one I know, right? He kept going up the coaching ranks, and he went 33-5 there. But here's the deal. He has never had a losing season as a coach since 2011. So, and that's going to include this year, of course, because Indiana is 10-0. Very impressive resume, but I don't know who IUP is. I don't know where Elon plays. It sounds like, with when Alabama played Mercer last week, right? And I mean, it sounds like a disease, for God's sake. So I'll give him the fact that he's never had a losing season, but I don't know where half those teams play and what they are. So take it for what it's worth, right?
Yeah, yep, I completely agree.
All right. Last thing, actually, next to last thing, because I'm going to do my Big 12 big upsets here in just a moment. ASU is finally getting the respect they deserve. ASU is finally getting the respect they deserve. I've been on this team for weeks. I love Kenny Dillingham. We'll talk about that in a moment. So, Kenny Dillingham is my favorite coach. Should Kenny Dillingham get consideration for Coach of the Year? Let me set this up a minute. This program was in shambles when this poor guy took this thing over, right? They weren't even sure if he was going to be a good coach or not. Never mind the coach that he has become. They were under sanction. Herm Edwards left this place a freaking mess, and we both know it because we live out here, right? We know how much of a mess this place was in. Kenny Dillingham, who was an Arizona State Sun Devil, who wanted to coach here, comes in, fire in his belly, goes crazy on the sideline, yelling and screaming. You can hear him on the camera, or excuse me, hear him on the camera. You can hear him on the microphone, see him on the camera. So I love his coaching style. I love the fire that he brings, and I think this team is on the rise now. I'm very anxious to see where he can plateau with this. But for this season, Mitch, does he get any consideration for college football coaching?
Yes, I think he has to, and for all the reasons you just listed, and the way he's turned this team and program around, I think he's got to get the respect. Now Arizona State has gotten the respect they deserve. Give Coach Dillingham the respect he deserves as well, because he has really turned this program around. To go from 3 wins all of last season, and to go in and beat Kansas State this last weekend, now they're ranked. They have really surpassed expectations this season, and I think a lot of it has to do with the head coach there and the culture that he's built in ASU.
Okay, so I want to look at the same thing that we looked at with the Indiana coach for Kenny Dillingham, right? Let's follow this out a minute. So ASU has not signed Kenny Dillingham to any kind of an extension. He's still on his original contract. What if BYU comes in here this weekend? They beat BYU, and a couple other things happen for them, and all of a sudden they're playing in the Big Ten title game, just like Indiana was hoping to do if they can knock off Ohio State. Indiana struck while before they got to the big game. Arizona State is looking like they're going to wait until the results of the game are going to happen. This could be interesting here because if they don't do something, there's going to be a big-time program. I mean, what if Florida's awful this year, right? What if Florida wants to come in and swoop up Kenny Dillingham? There's some other big-time programs that could come in and grab him up. What's ASU going to do here?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest difference that we see in these two is that ASU knows that Kenny wants to coach ASU.
Yeah.
And I think they're using that as a bargaining chip. And I think that could come back to bite them, because you can want to coach a team as badly as you want, but if other teams are giving you way better offers, you're going to take it to protect yourself and family long term. So that they're really taking a gamble here, waiting.
So I want the other note that I've got here is I want my Bengals to draft Cam Scatterboom in the first round. That's what I want, man. I love that guy. Physical. Just he tells you, hey, by the way, I'm coming. 5 yards before he gets to you, I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to hit you hard. It's going to hurt, and he just does it. He just trucks people. I love that guy. I'm not sure how long he can stay in the NFL trucking people, because the guys in the NFL aren't like the guys in college. Ask Caleb Williams. But I love his running style, and I hope he gets picked in the first round by a team that really needs a running back so they can show off, whether it be the Bengals or somebody else, so he can show off his skill at the next level.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would love that move. I love Scatterbo. He runs with fire, and man, he's not afraid of anybody. Not the biggest guy out there, but he really knows how to drop the hammer too. So that'd be a really good pickup no matter who gets him.
I also have to say I don't like the Steelers because I'm a Bengals guy, but I want to give one Steeler some credit that is on the ASU staff. You may or may not know. Do you know who the receivers coach is for ASU?
I don't actually.
Hines Ward is the receivers coach
Wow.
for ASU. He's done a fantastic job with that core. He's done a great job molding them with Sam Levitt. I want to make this prediction now. Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson will be a huge connection moving forward. Both those guys will play on Sundays whenever they're ready.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know Hines Ward, but I really like what they've done all around on the football team in Tempe, and I think the sky's the limit for him.
All right, here we go. Big 12, big upsets. First of all, ASU will beat BYU this weekend. That's my first big upset. UC will beat Kansas State this weekend. Second big upset. It'll knock them completely out of everything. I think UC is a better team than a lot of people give them credit for, and I think we'll see it this weekend. You ready for this one? Here's my big one for Dion. Kansas beat BYU last week. They're coming off this big emotional victory. I think Colorado State is going to take them way too lightly, and it's at least going to be a game. And I'm going to predict that Kansas will knock off Colorado this weekend. I believe it's in Kansas. I don't think it's in Boulder. I believe it's in Kansas. It is in Kansas.
Yep.
So I'm going to say Kansas over Colorado. So I've got one more that's not Big 12, but ASU over BYU, UC over Kansas State, and Kansas over Colorado. So I'm not Mitch Moneybag Middlebrook or anything, but I'm gonna make those predictions right now. Let me give you this one. Cowboy Reggie, put your hands over your ears, buddy. Notre Dame is at home to Army this weekend, and Notre Dame is favored by 14 points over Army, who is ranked in the top 25. I don't know if Army can beat them or not, but I would take that spread in a minute. I'm not a big gambling guy, but when I saw 14-point spread, I'm like, whew. Yeah, I'm taking Army in the 14-point spread. I would take Army in the 7-point spread, to be very honest with you. And I give Army a shot at beating Notre Dame, even in Indiana this week. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I'm with you. And actually, I got Army hitting an upset this week against Notre Dame. I know Notre Dame, their last game against the service school, really took it to Navy, who was also top 25, but I think Army's going to get it done this weekend. The only one I'm not with you on is Kansas over Colorado. I think Colorado is right on the edge there at 16, and if they want to be in consideration for that 12th and final college football playoff spot, they really need to blow Kansas and Oklahoma State out of the water. I think they know that, and they're really, really aiming for that. It's probably not going to be enough, even if they do blow both those teams out of the water, unless they get a lot of help in the top 12 right now and get some losses and some bad losses. But I think that's the only way, and they know that, so they're going to come out with fire.
Okay. Again, we can agree to disagree. It's fine. Let's do a second opening draw. According to Vivid Seats, the cheapest ticket for Indiana, Ohio State as of yesterday was $102. The cheapest ticket for BYU at ASU, $233. How much is meaning to ASU right now? Second, Zach Taylor, of course, Bengals head coach, and Matt LaFleur both got their head coaching jobs in 2019. LaFleur has 20 more wins than Zach Taylor. The last time ASU was undefeated at home in they can beat BYU on Saturday. They will go undefeated at home. The last time ASU was undefeated at home, head coach Penny Dillingham was in the 8th grade. It was 2000. All right, so we got those three. ASU with their undefeated at home. Zach Taylor being 20 wins under Matt LaFleur, or the Vivid Seats thing with the cheapest tickets to one of those two games. But you got about 20 seconds for this music game. Tell me what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually talk about Zach Taylor and Matt LaFleur. That's a really surprising stat to me. And it's even more surprising when you think about Matt LaFleur has not taken the Packers to a Super Bowl. Zach Taylor has, and the Bengals have played in the Super Bowl under Zach Taylor, and so that's even more of a surprise to me. I will say, Zach Taylor's also had to figure out what to do without Joe Burrow, and that's probably contributing to some of that as well. But they've also lost a lot of close games with Joe Burrow playing MVP caliber football. Matt LaFleur is very consistent, and the Packers have done very well under him, especially for as young of a head coach as he is. But man, that's surprising to have a 20-win differential between the two. I would not have guessed that.
All right, let's do one more promo here, and then we'll go into our MLB talk to finish out the show. Go. All right, so we are broadcasting in full HD right here, 1080p on StreamYard. Remember, we are on StreamYard, 1080p. We are also on YouTube. Mitch, tell us what the YouTube thing is, buddy.
Yep, you'll find us at The643&Out Pod on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, follow along, watch live there, or you can do the full recording afterwards.
That's right. So YouTube, we're also on Facebook. You can go to The643&Out on Facebook as well. We are just two guys who love sports, but love debating sports more. And that's why we give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the sports truth. All right, we will go into MLB 4-pitch talk now. As we talk about the Hall of Fame, we will talk about 5 guys. Get out our crystal stitch ball here and look into it, figure out where those 5 pitchers are going to sign. I got a little nugget for you, a trade between the Reds and the Diamondbacks. We're going to give a prediction of 1 pitcher and 1 hitter that'll be traded this offseason. We're going to have a little fun with our predictions today. Then we're going to get into a big question at the end. I'll save that one. It was on a couple of the promos, but I'll just tell you it's about those awful Dodgers out here on the West Coast. We'll get to all of those things here in just a moment. I should have had this pulled up, but I do not. Let's see if I can get it fast. So how many players on the 2025 Hall of Fame ballot are deserving to go into the Hall of Fame? What do you think, Mitch? How many? Give me a number.
That's it. Man, I know we have and we can talk about Hall of Fame ballots and voting for hours. I'm sure this won't be the last time before the Hall of Fame voting season comes to an end. Right now, I'm putting it at
how many are you putting it at?
I'm putting it at 9. I could see 10, which is all of the votes you get, by the way, if you're a Hall of Fame voter. I'm putting it at 9 right now, and I could see the potential for 10. I'm sure in a few weeks we'll get more in depth on who we're voting and what our ballot would look like if we had some. But I'm putting it at 9 right now and kind of teetering on 10.
All right. So I want to make sure that we're looking at the same ballot here. Bobby Abreu, Carlos Beltran, Mark Burley, Carlos Gonzalez, Curtis Granderson, Felix Hernandez, Corey Hunter in alphabetical order as we keep going. Adam Jones, Andrew Jones, Ian Kinsler, Russell Martin, Brian McCann, Dustin Pedroia, Andy Pettit, Hanley Ramirez, Manny Ramirez, Fernando Rodney, Alex Rodriguez, Francisco Rodriguez, Jimmy Rollins, CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, Troy Tulowitzki, Chase Utley, Omar Vizquel, Billy Wagner, David Wright, Ben Zobrist. Right? Those are everybody, right?
Yep.
All right. Give me who gets in on the first ballot?
Ichiro Suzuki,
Okay.
without
Agreed.
doubt, he might be unanimous. I think that's it.
Yeah. See, I'm in the same boat. He's the only first ballot guy for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask you, this will be the interesting one. We're not going to look at stats right at the moment. We're not going to really dive into it head first. We're just going to tip our feet in the water here for a second. So I'm just going to go down through. You tell me yes or no, and I'll go with you. Bobby Abreu, is he a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Interesting. I think so too. Carlos Beltran, is he a Hall of Famer?
No.
Okay. So far, we're 2 for 2. Mark Berlin?
This is my 10th guy that I'm still on. I don't know. I'd have to say no.
All right. I'm with you. As far as the cheater, he's done some really good things. He's got some really good numbers. He's got what I believe 2 complete games and things like that. But does he have the overall career? I really have to take a look at the numbers. He'll be one that'll be interesting for us to look at in the coming weeks. Carlos Gonzalez.
No.
Okay. No, I agree. Curtis Granderson.
As much as it pains me, no.
Agreed. Felix Hernandez.
This is another really tough one because of it's not the all-around stats, but a few of them really stand out.
Did he have a long enough career too? I think that's the
exactly. Man, it's.
So do you want to say we'll wait and we'll examine it more later?
Yeah, I think gut is I think gut is yes, but I also get no. So I'll put myself kind of in the middle, slightly leaning yes.
Okay. Corey Hunter?
It's another tough one, but no.
Okay. I'm going to do both of these at the same time. Adam and Andrew Jones. Adam, yes or no?
No.
Andrew Jones?
No.
See, I would go yes, Andrew Jones, no on Adam Jones. First one we disagreed on. Ian
That's closer. I could see Andrew. I think there's just some things that are a little head scratching there. But yeah, I wouldn't be upset seeing Andrew Jones in there.
Okay, we're going to have a nice debate on a few of these. How about Ian Kinsler?
No.
No, Ian Kinsler. Okay, so most everybody that's watched this podcast knows that I work for the Department of Corrections. Ian Kinsler's father has worked for the Department of Corrections. He is very high up in the Department of Corrections. I believe he is now retired, but his father was very high up in the Arizona Department of Corrections. Yeah. See the things you can find out when you hang out with me for a little bit on a podcast. How about Russell Martin?
No.
Brian McCann?
No.
Dustin Pedroia?
No. Unfortunately, just not a long enough career. Cut short due to injury and yeah, just I think a few more years of where he was at. Yes, but no, just not long enough.
Okay. Andy Pettit, as we're halfway through the list.
This one I think is going to surprise you. I say yes, Andy Pettit.
I need to look at his. This is going to be one of those guys that I'm going to tell you, even though he's a Yankee and I don't want to have bias against him because of it, I probably do. So I may need to be a little more objective. And before I say yes or no, I want to look at the numbers. I want to give him a chance.
That's fair.
So Hanley Ramirez, Manny Ramirez. Hanley, yes or no?
Hanley's a no. Manny is a yes.
Uh, no, just because of where he's at drug-wise and how he painted and how he admitted to it. No, I'm not touching that. Just like another guy we're going to get to here in a minute. Fernando Rodney is next.
Fernando Rodney is a no for me.
Okay, he's a no for me as well. How about Alex Rodriguez?
I think these are the ones we're going to disagree on because I'm going to say yes.
Okay, and we are going to disagree on it, and you're going to know why. I'm the get off my lawn guy. I'm not putting anybody in there that I know was doing any kind of performance enhancing drugs. We'll talk more about that later. In fact, I think we're going to put these guys into a category later on. We're going to divide some of these Hall of Famers up into some categories, and we'll talk about them exclusively. So we'll get into a good discussion about this. How about Francisco Rodriguez?
No.
Jimmy Rollins?
No.
I think I'm going to go yes on Jimmy Rollins. I would go no on Francisco Rodriguez, but I may be able to sway you on Jimmy Rollins. I was looking at his numbers a little bit over the weekend. Maybe so. CC
I think the
Sabathia.
only thing that keeps me out on Jimmy Rollins is his overall batting average. 264. It doesn't do it for me.
Okay, and that's fine. We'll talk about it. Now, is this CC Sabathia's first round as well?
It is. Yep.
Ooh. Could you see CC Sabathia making it on his first ballot?
I could see it. I don't expect it. I could see it, but he's definitely going to get in. That's not the question. It's just whether it's first ballot or not. But I think he'll need a little bit more to get there first ballot.
Not that I'm trying to say anything negative about him and his battle with alcoholism, but I think he may get some votes just because of the fact that he admitted to doing it and he's come out, he's tried to help other people. So maybe some things off the field might get him into the Hall of Fame on the field. We've already said Ichiro Suzuki was a yes. How about Troy Tulowitzki? It's an interesting name.
That's a no. Man, I loved watching Troy when I was growing up, but no, that's not a Hall of Famer. Hall of very good.
Okay. And we talked about that before. That's right. This is the Hall of Fame. It's a big-time honor. It's very hard to get into this hall. Chase Utley.
I'm going to say yes. Yes on Chase Utley. That's a close one for me.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I don't like Chase Utley. It is a close one, and I'm going to tell you what keeps him out for me is that I consider Chase Utley a dirty player. I didn't like some of the things that he did. We'll talk more about that. But I'm on the border for him as well because you could say Pete Rose was a dirty player at times, and I love Pete Rose. So I don't know. I have to look at him a little closer. As far as
I actually completely agree, and to be honest with you, the way the voting for Chase Utley turned out last year, I was in a hard no for Chase Utley, and the voters really surprised me on that. On his first year on the ballot last year, he got 28.8% of ballots saying yes, and that was huge for first year on the ballot. I mean, that's more than Jimmy Rollins and Bobby Abreu got last year, even more than Omar Vizquel got. So that really surprised me, and that's kind of why I leaned yes this year.
Okay. So how about Omar Vizquel? He's the next one alphabetically on the list. What do you think about Omar?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. He's on the line for me.
Yeah.
Billy Wagner. I'm going to be interested to see what you have to say about Billy Wagner.
Billy Wagner, final year on the ballot.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. And I would have said yes years ago for Billy Wagner, but I'm hoping he gets him because, as you just mentioned, final year on the ballot. We got two more. David Wright.
David Wright. That's another tough one. I'm gonna say no.
Okay. I'm gonna reserve my vote until I really look at his numbers, because at this stage of the game, we're not voting yet. So I'm gonna reserve my right on a few of these to look at numbers. And then the last one is Ben Zobrist.
Ben Zobrist, a no. Great
Okay.
postseason player, but just not enough in the regular season.
And as it always does, as we get into our baseball talk, this thing, the numbers always jump up for us here as we get into that talk. Mitch, we're going to look into our crystal ball here, and we're going to talk about 5 different pitchers. We're going to talk about where we think 5 different pitchers are going to land. I'm going to put these headphones down for a second and walk away from this. I'm going to let you talk about Blake Snell and where you think he's going to land. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. I'll
Yeah.
let you talk for a second.
Yeah, I appreciate this. Blake Snell's an interesting one, man. There's a lot of teams on Blake Snell right now and interested in showing interest, huge interest in Blake Snell. I could see this going a lot of different ways. I could see him ending up back in San Francisco. I could also see him, and this is where I'm going to say I think he goes. I think Blake Snell is going to be a Boston Red Sox. And I think the only thing that's depending on is if the Red Sox can get Max Fried or not. We'll talk about Max Fried in a little bit here. And this is going to kind of be up in the air for me. I really couldn't choose between either of these guys for the Red Sox, but I'm going with them for both because I really do think that either of these teams or either of these guys could end up being a Boston Red Sox next year. I could also see him being a Yankee. The Yankees really need to shore up that starting rotation, and Blake Snell does that for him perfectly. Blake Snell kind of I won't say opposite of Garrett Cole, but a very different pitcher than Garrett Cole that could really balance that starting rotation for them well. So I'm gonna settle on the Red Sox, but depending on, we'll talk about another one of these guys later. If the Red Sox don't get Blake Snell, they'll be getting another one of these guys that we're going to talk about later on.
Okay. Now, one of the things that nobody here knows about is that all I did was put names on a piece of paper. I didn't give away where I was going to vote for. I didn't ask you to give away where you were going to vote for. We were just going to do this almost like a seat of our pants kind of thing. Now, I'm sure that as I have, you have put some work in and have looked at different teams and things like that. So where are you going with Blake Snell? Since I had to go, for the first time in the existence of the Sportz Truth, I didn't plan out my drinking schedule very well. So
I'm gonna say Red Sox, but I reserve the right to change it to Yankees depending on the way that one of these guys later in this goes as well.
Okay. So I agree with you. I like Blake Snell to the Red Sox. There's a few reasons for this. The Red Sox are going to they're trying to rebuild and they're trying to build. They're trying to do both, right? They're trying to get kids for later, and they're trying to go out and get free agents for now. And the Red Sox are one of those teams that can afford to do that. So Blake Snell does not come with a qualifying offer. They don't have to give up one of those young kids to get him or anything like that. And I think that makes him more attractive to the Red Sox. I do think he will be more money, but I don't think the Red Sox will care. They'll pay the extra money, and they will sign Blake Snell. Let's talk about Corbin Burns. Where do you think Corbin Burns is going to go to, Moneybag Middlebrook?
Yeah, I actually think Burns is either going to stay in Baltimore or be a New York Met. I think I'm leaning more towards the Orioles, and so that's where I'm going to put my money there. But the Orioles, according to Jeff Passan, are ready to spend to keep Corbin Burns. And if they're willing to do that, I think he enjoyed his time there this last season enough that they'll end up keeping him.
I agree with you. I think Corbin Burns is going to stay in Milwaukee. I think it's going to be a really big deal.
Baltimore.
I'm sorry, Baltimore. Thank you.
I wish
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
yeah, you wish Milwaukee. I know you do, buddy. And by the way, let's give a shout out to Pat Murphy, a
Hmm.
unanimous winner. I mean, it wasn't even close. What, he got 27 of the 30 votes, I believe. So good job for Pat Murphy. We said it last week. We thought that's where um, the writers were going to lean to. They got Stephen Coate from the American League as well. His voting was a little closer, but we'll give a
Hmm.
good shout out there to Pat Murphy while we're talking about Corbin Burnes. Yes, I think he's going to be with Baltimore, um, and I do. I think they're going to have to pay for him. I think Corbin Burnes is going to make them. And I think it's going to come down to the one or two teams. I will put a wild card in here for Corbin Burnes. I think there's another team that really wants a frontline starter, and they don't have one, and they think that's going to be what puts them over the top. And believe it or not, it's the Washington Nationals. I think they're going to go down this Steven Strasburg road again and see if it doesn't pan out for them a little better, and they might do it with a guy of Corbin Burnes. So Baltimore right there, but I think you're going to see Baltimore and Washington fight over him, and that's going to allow Corbin Burnes to get like one more year or a few more $1 million per year, one of the two. So we said Blake Snell, both of us agree. Red Sox, Corbin Burnes, both of us agree basically that he's going to stay there with Baltimore. Um, this guy's not staying where he's at. He's going to go somewhere else. Boy, the numbers are shooting up, man. Just every time we go to baseball, they know we love baseball. Max Fried. Where's Max Fried going to go? He was with Atlanta this past year. Is he going to stay in Atlanta, or is he going to go somewhere else?
See, I really thought that he was going to stay in Atlanta, and all the reports I've seen, and even a few weeks ago when they had the betting odds for these, Atlanta was not up there even in the top three. Um, this is why I reserved the right with Blake Snell to back out on the Red Sox, and that's exactly because of Max Fried. To be honest with you, I could see the Red Sox in on all three of these guys that we've talked about: Snell, Burnes, and Max Fried. They're gonna land one of them when all is said and done. I think it goes in that order of who they're pitching there. And no pun intended, I think they're giving their best pitch to Blake Snell, then going after Burnes, and then going after Max Fried in that order. And if they can't get it done with Snell or Burnes, they'll be just happy taking Max Fried. So I'm gonna say Red Sox for Max Fried, but kind of also still in on the Braves. So I gave the Red Sox and Yankees for Snell. If it's not the Red Sox for Snell, it's going to be the Yankees. If it's not the Red Sox for Fried, it's going to be the Braves.
Okay. So Max Fried for me, I'm going to go National League for him. I'm going to stick with them. I'm not going to go over to the American League for Max Fried. I'm going to put Max Fried, man, as much as I do not want to say this because they're a rival of my Red, but I think Chicago is going to swoop in, and they know they've got to get a starting pitcher. So I'm going to pick Max Fried going to the Chicago Cubs. And again, I think this is one of those things where the Cubs are probably going to overpay, but they feel as though they have to because they need a starting pitcher in order to compete in that division, and they know.
Yeah.
All right, so we got two more to get to here. My answers for these next two, I put them up here on purpose because they're going to be pretty interesting. I want to see your eyes bug out for the places I'm going to pick for these two guys. The first one is Max Scherzer. I'm going to let you go first, though. Where's Max Scherzer going to go?
Yeah, I'm going to the Cubs for Max Scherzer. So we both got a Max going to the Cubs, just
Okay.
different Maxes. And I think you're exactly right. The way you put it for Fried, same thing for Scherzer. They're going to way overpay. They're probably going to be one of the only teams that would overpay for Max Scherzer right now with his injury history, but they're going to overpay, and it's because they want a guy like that. They really need to replace Kyle Hendricks, and they know they need to do that, and they're going to really reach for it and way overpay for Max Scherzer.
Okay. I'm looking at this in a different light than what you were looking at for Max Scherzer. I'm looking at this as Max Scherzer is going to pick where Max Scherzer wants to go. At the end of his career, he's probably only going to sign a one-year deal, and he's going to retire here in the next 1 to 3 years. So I think he wants to go somewhere young. I think he wants to go somewhere where he can be the leader. I think he wants to go somewhere where he basically says, everybody follow me. And I think you're going to be really happy with where I'm going to say he's going to go, because I believe Max Scherzer will sign a 1-year deal with the Detroit Tigers and lead that pitching staff that made the playoffs, but needs someone like him to kind of push them over the top. And I think that AJ can sell him on that, and he'll be a Detroit Tiger for the upcoming season, leading them to a little further down the road to the playoffs and maybe even to the World Series.
Yeah, I like that. A little reunion in Detroit. I think that'd be pretty cool, actually.
All right. Last one, and I did this one on purpose. Walker Buehler, guy that's coming off his second Tommy John. He looked good at times. He looked terrible at times. And I really think, I don't know about you, but before we say what team he's going to go to, if you agree that he's probably going to want a 1-year deal, kind of a prove-it deal, and then he's going to come back next year and sign a bigger deal, kind of betting on himself, right?
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree, and that's why I think it's most likely that he's going to take a 1-year deal with the Dodgers. He's going to want to come back and defend that title, and the Dodgers love him. He loves the Dodgers. It's the only organization he knows in Major League Baseball, and he's going to want to prove himself there as well, with the chance to compete for another World Series. So I don't think anything exciting right now. I think he's sticking in LA with the Dodgers.
All right. Paula says, congratulations to Pat Murphy. Yes, congratulations to Pat Murphy, as we mentioned earlier, skipper of the Milwaukee Brewers. The big M there on the chest of Moneybag Mitch Middlebrook, as he represents his team for the MLB, just like I was representing, or not was. I still got it on. I haven't changed shirts yet. We're going with AFU here on the show today as well. Thank you for putting that up there, Paula, in the comment section. We appreciate it, and we encourage everyone else to do so here in these last couple segments that we have in MLB. I told you we wouldn't get it under 90 minutes. We're going to be another 2-hour show. But you know what? That's all right, because the numbers keep growing. They're sticking with us. I think they kind of like it. All right, me, Walker Buehler, if I'm taking a 1-year contract, I'm going to go back home. Simple as that. If I'm going to do that 1-year contract, I want to be close to my family. I want to be close to where I was born, raised, went to high school. He went away when he went to college at Vanderbilt University. That's not where he was from. You know where Walker Buehler's from by any chance, sir?
I don't.
I don't. All right. I wouldn't expect you to. Lexington, Kentucky. Walker Buehler would take a 1-year contract with the Cincinnati Reds to stay close to home and fortify that rotation for 1 year to see where he goes after that.
That'd be pretty neat, actually. I wouldn't mind that. I don't know if I want to see the Walker Buehler of 2 years ago in Cincinnati against my Brewers, but that'd be a pretty neat signing, actually.
All right. So I threw it in there on purpose because I knew exactly where I was going to go the entire time. So, all right. There looks like there could be a trade between the Reds and the Diamondbacks. I don't know if you've seen any of this. There are two teams that I have a little bit of in with, and that is the Reds and the Diamondbacks. Big Reds guy, have been for a long, long time. Know some people in that organization. Not bragging, but I got a little bit of insight. And then the Diamondbacks, of course, they are here. And here's the trade that I keep hearing, and it's flying under the radar. So just like last week when I said Jonathan India is probably going to go to the San Francisco Giants, and I think you looked at me like I was nuts, even though you understood the trade. You hadn't heard anything like that. I'm still going to stick with that one. And here's the second trade that I'm going to stick with. It looks like the Reds want one more piece to their rotation. The Diamondbacks want to get rid of Jordan Montgomery. The Diamondbacks just had Christian Walker say no to the qualifying offer, just like everybody else did, with the exception of Martinez for Cincinnati. He was the only one that accepted the qualifying offer. Everyone else rejected it today. So Jeimer Candelario goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks. He can play first and third base if Eugenio Suarez has another terrible start to the season like he did this past year. And coming back to Cincinnati, along with probably no prospects because Arizona doesn't want to give up any of their prospects, but they're willing to pay the salary down for Jordan Montgomery, and the Reds can get a flyer, a kind of a reclamation type project on Jordan Montgomery for significantly less than just $20 million. So watch out for that. That may happen in the foreseeable future. What would you think about that from each end?
Yeah, I think that actually helps both teams. It helps the Diamondbacks get rid of Montgomery's contract, or at least some of it. And it also helps them get something for Christian Walker, who's going to be walking away. And they could get nothing for him. So I like that trade a lot, actually. I wouldn't be surprised seeing that.
We'll talk about Christian Walker because next week we're going to do 5 hitters. Like this week we did 5 pitchers. So Christian Walker will be on that list. We'll talk about where he will go next week. A prediction: 1 pitcher and 1 hitter who will be traded this off season. You want to go first? You want me to go first, buddy? I'll let you decide.
You can go. I'm actually I liked yours so much. I actually think I'm just going to talk about these with you.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not. I've never been good at the trade predictions, so I'll leave those to you. But I really liked yours here.
So I've got the 1 pitcher and 1 hitter. I'm not going to use the trade that I just talked about in either one of these two. I'm going to give you 2 more. Basically, because I know there are a couple of teams who want to lower payroll, and in order to lower their payrolls, they got to get rid of some of their bigger stars. So I'm going to do that with 2 teams. The Texas Rangers have a pitcher who is on the final year of his contract. He's making about $14 million this coming season. And there's a team that I think that's in the Central Division again that could use a guy like this, and it's not your Brewers, don't get all excited over there, who could use a player like this in order to fortify their rotation because they've got some young guys in the front of it. And so John Gray from the Texas Rangers to the Pittsburgh Pirates for some prospects.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this one. Like I said, like both of these that you've mentioned. John Gray has really turned his career around in Texas, and I think his selling point right now is the highest it's going to be. So I actually really like this for both teams. I think it helps the Pirates spend a little bit more and gives them a really good piece in that starting rotation. A guy that I think is really overlooked at times too, and kind of fits into the Pirates payroll a little more than guys would at John Gray's level. Like you said, making $14 million. I think he's like really the perfect fit for the Pirates if they're going to go out and get anybody of that caliber.
Okay. Here's my second one, the hitter. I know the St. Louis Cardinals want to get rid of their payroll. They want to drop their payroll significantly. They're talking about trading. They already didn't do a qualifying offer to Jack Flaherty. They're talking about trading Sonny Gray. They're talking about trading a few other guys. They are going to trade. They're going to make some trades. They may even make one at these winter meetings coming up. So look out for that. Here's my prediction. They are going to trade Nolan Arenado and his huge contract, 4 years, $73 more million that he is going to get paid. They will probably have to cover some of that, and the Rockies are covering a little bit of that too in that awful trade that they made with St. Louis. I believe they're covering. And of the 4 years, I think Colorado's covering like $3 million each year for the first 3 of that 4-year contract, or something to that effect. So the Cardinals are going to trade Nolan Arenado to the Toronto Blue Jays. And they're going to get their big bopper at third base, much like last year where they tried to get Matt Chapman. So what do you think about that? The Nolan Arenado to Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a hole they've been trying to fill for a long time now, and they are going to go out and get him. The asking price, I think, is going to be the question mark here, but they also know that the Cardinals want to dump that payroll as much as they can. So they're going to be playing right into the Blue Jays' hands with this one.
Yeah, so I think they can throw in a few prospects. I mean, they're going to have to be decent prospects. I'm not going to get rid of the pitcher that they've got. I could see Alex Manoah to be in that trade or something like that. so that St. Louis feels like they get something for what they did with the Arenado signing way back when. But I know they want to get rid of a lot of their payroll, and that's going to be a good way to start.
Yep.
All right. Last thing that we are doing on the Sports Truth today. This may take a few minutes. Buckle up. Bear with us. Here we go. Here's the question. You know what? I don't even think I put any of these other questions up here. No, I did all this work and got all about putting these questions up there. So let's get this one up. Here it is. Can MLB allow the Dodgers to sign Ohtani last year to a $700 million contract, then sign Juan Soto to a $600 million contract this season? Mitch, can MLB allow this to happen?
Yeah, unfortunately they can, because I don't think they can do anything about it. I don't want them to, and I wish they could prevent it, but I think their hands are tied, and they can't do anything to stop it at this point if that's what's going to happen. So I think not really can they allow it, but do they have to allow it? Yeah, I think so.
I think they can do some things to persuade them to not do it if they want. I mean, it's Major League Baseball, right? They're only one of 30 teams. They can not necessarily put sanctions on them like we do, you know, when the government doesn't like what China's doing or something, and we put sanctions on them, right? But baseball can kind of put sanctions on them. Major League Baseball has to approve all trades, right? So when it gets to the trade deadline and they're doing money back and forth, MLB can always, you know, be like, hey, sure, you wanna sign Soto? Don't be looking for our help when you're going to make trades in the middle of the year, right? You want to sign both these guys and get them on your team? Well, don't be looking for us to put you on showcase games on MLB Network, and you know, so they can do some things that would hurt the Dodgers. I'm kind of like you. I don't know if they can do enough to hurt the Dodgers. I mean, I'll say this: the Dodgers won the World Series, and they need outfield help. So they're probably still going to have a surplus of money, whether we want to admit it or not. And they do need an outfield, whether that's Oscar Hernandez re-signing with them, or they go out and get Juan Soto. And they did. I can confirm this for you. I'm sure you've seen reports of it as well. There are several people in the baseball land who said the Dodgers and Scott Boras and Juan Soto all sat down today, and they're going to the Giants tomorrow. So,
Yeah, agreed. And I think Major League Baseball really backed themselves into a corner already, and the Dodgers really have them in the spot they want because of the way Shohei's contract was designed. You know, to have $2 million each year and the other $68 million a year deferred, I think that really helps them and gives them a better chance at signing Juan Soto. Now, I don't think Juan Soto is going to defer that much money like Shohei Ohtani decided to do. But I think either way, that's really the only reason we're even discussing this right now, is because the way Shohei's contract is designed.
right. So they can afford to pay Juan Soto for 9 years, like some astronomical amount, as long as it doesn't get to that 10th year, which would be the 11th year of the Shohei contract. So,
Yep.
yeah, the way everything was structured, I think you're right. What about this? Does MLB want their biggest star in their biggest market? And if so, then wouldn't they be salivating if they get Shohei Ohtani, the golden boy, who they let get away with all the gambling scandals and everything else, and just swept that underneath the rug, right? And wouldn't they just be salivating if you could have Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani on the same team?
I think, yes, they do want their stars in the biggest market. I think where it comes back to hurt them and where they might not really want this to happen is because we're getting to a point that all of these stars are in the biggest market of the Dodgers. So anytime you want people to turn on the TV and see Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Juan Soto, even toss Walker Buehler in there, you have to toss on a Los Angeles Dodgers game. And so to spread that around and to actually be able to create primetime games that people want to watch that don't include the Dodgers, it's really in their best interest to not have Juan Soto be a Dodger.
you throw Clayton Kershaw in there as well. But yes, I
That's more
understand.
pitch.
He's had a great career now. Don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like his last hurrah, you know.
It is, but I think that's going to attract enough people just all in itself just to see Kershaw. I think you're going to see Kershaw sign a contract with the Dodgers. So I know we're getting off topic here in a minute, but I really think he's going to do the Derek Jeter thing and be like, okay, I'm going to sign with Big Papi thing, right? I'm going to sign this
Yeah.
contract. It's going to be my last contract. I'm going to do a farewell tour, go around, see everybody, shake hands, kiss babies, and I'm going to be done.
Yep. Exactly.
So don't you think people, especially out west, would just be like, you know what, if this happens, just hand the Dodgers the title right now? Why are we even playing them this season?
Yeah, I really think. I think it's already kind of to that point with a lot of people. I mean, they thought that this year there were times this year where the Dodgers kind of faltered and had a lot of pitching injuries that you really weren't sure if they were going to be able to pull it out. It really wasn't a surprise that they were able to when you look at that offense and you look at that roster. But I think people are already kind of at that point with the Dodgers. Now if you potentially add Juan Soto to that roster, and nobody's even going to be tuning in. They're gonna call the season a wrap by the first pitch of opening day.
So let me ask you this. Now, this might be a little extreme, but I want you to think about this for a moment. So will the National League West just become a joke? And you'll see the Rockies just sell everybody off. And you'll see the Diamondbacks just sell everybody off. And you'll see the Giants just sell everybody off. And be like, you know what? We know we can't compete with this, so why are we even trying?
I don't think you'll see that in the first year. I think if the Dodgers come out and they're as dominant as they should be with this roster, and if you add Juan Soto to it, and they just run away with it, they win the division by 20 games. Yeah, I think you'll see that in the following years. I don't think it'll be right away. I think the teams will still try to compete outside of the Rockies. The Rockies are going to sell away their guys either way. They know they can't compete with even the Diamondbacks for this division. But I don't think the Diamondbacks would do it right away. I think that they would try to hang around for at least a year, see what they can do. And then, if it doesn't go their way, then yeah, they're just giving up they're not going to be fighting for a wild card spot even, because they know it's not going to mean anything if they have to play the Dodgers eventually anyways.
All right. So does Vegas have odds, or does somebody have odds on where Juan Soto is going to end up?
Yes.
All right.
So
let's go to the gambling side of this whole scenario.
So right now, actually, surprisingly enough, the Yankees are still the favorite to sign Juan Soto. So they got to be getting those Brinks trucks ready to back up for him. And then no surprise here with what Steve Cohen said, the Mets. So both New York teams are 1 and 2. The Mets are plus 160 to sign Juan Soto, and then actually third, which is an odd one. So it's any other team to sign Juan Soto. Now that's not any other team than the Yankees or Mets. It's any other team that isn't listed in their odds. So all of the teams listed in the odds to sign Juan Soto out of Vegas are the Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Cubs, Blue Jays, Giants, Nationals, which you called last week, and the Red Sox. So any out of those 8 teams, if any other team outside of those sign Juan Soto, they're at plus 900 odds.
That means that plus 900 odds. If I put $10 on it, that gives me 9,000 out of my 10.
No, so that would mean that you bet $10, you win 100.
Okay. All right. I don't understand gambling math, but that's okay. That's what I got you here for, buddy.
Yeah.
So, do you think Juan Soto will end up a Los Angeles Dodger?
I don't. I really don't. I do think Juan Soto is going to be a Yankee or a Met. I think he's going to stay in New York. I think the biggest thing for Juan Soto right now is that big paycheck, and he'll worry about championships later and moving his way to a championship contending team if the Mets aren't that through the course of his career there, which is where I think he's going to sign. Just because the money talks for him right now. And I truly do believe that Steve Cohen is going to give him the best offer that he can have money-wise. So I think that's where he's going to end up. I think later in the contract with the Mets, if they're not competing, Juan Soto is going to do enough to say, you know what, he'll structure his contract well enough to where trade is still possible in the later portion of the contract, and he'll join a winning team at that point.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a few things here. I think if Juan Soto really wants to make a bunch of money in like 4 years, where he can sign like, a 4-year contract where he makes $35 or $40 million a year, then he's going to go to the Washington Nationals. I think Washington will pay him that in a short-term contract to come be with them. They'll go out and get, a couple other pitchers, and they'll just go for it for the next 4 years. I also heard today that the Philadelphia Phillies now have thrown their hat in the mix and have said, hey, we want to talk to Juan Soto too. So that could be interesting, and that is not on I don't believe that the Phillies were on your list of people. So if you're thinking maybe that the Phillies have a shot at it, then you might want to put some money where Mitch is telling you at there and go that route. But I want to give you a surprise team that I don't think anybody's talking about that needs to hit a home run, and they need to do it soon before some of their players leave. Toronto Blue Jays need to hit a home run. They've got Vladimir Guerrero. They've got Chet over there. And as I told you earlier, I think they're going to trade for a third baseman, whether it be, who did I say earlier? Whether it be Nolan Arenado or somebody else. I think they're going to get another big hitter in there. And again, I think they would be the only team right now that would be able to match money for money, because the Roberts they're rich too, right? They don't really flaunt it as much as the Mets owner does, but it's not like they're hurting for money. So yeah. I think that there may be a bidding war between the Mets and the Blue Jays before it's all said and done. And if that's the case, I almost think the Blue Jays can win this. They won't miss out on Soto like they did Ohtani last year. If it takes 10 or 15 or 20 more million to make it happen, I think they'll do it.
Yeah, I could see that actually. I think the Blue Jays have been trying to get a huge name free agent for so long now, and they haven't been able to nab anybody. So I could really see them going above and beyond for Soto and making that pitch. So yeah, I think that's a dark horse for sure.
All right, buddy. I don't know. Can you hear the music in the background? Do you know what that means?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, it's about time for us to be quiet, or at least it's about time for me to talk to my wife, to talk to everybody on this podcast. So, hey, I've had a really great time doing this with you, as I do each and every week, man. NFL, college football, Major League Baseball. We haven't even touched on the NBA or anything yet, because we just haven't had enough time to put those stuff to talk about. So, buddy, I appreciate you. What are your plans for the week, man?
Not much. Getting ready for Thanksgiving next week, and just trying to get ready for the holidays.
Yeah, I think I may structure something around being thankful for what we're thankful in sports for the next week. We may have a segment like that. So the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up close, and then we got to start buying presents for each other. And I'll send you over some notes as to what you can get.
Perfect.
All right. Well, actually, I've already got you something. Small, but I saw something and I was like, oh, that's Mitch Middlebrook right there.
Don't go spoiling me now.
Oh, well, I don't know. We'll have to send them to each other. Maybe we'll open them live on the air during that Christmas week or something like that and see what we got at the end. So I won't embarrass you too much.
Yeah, I like that. Appreciate that. Yeah, it looks like we're getting some. Yeah.
Oh, Hey, we got comments up here. We gotta get to them real quick. Hold on. What Paul is saying here.
Yeah.
Really hope Soto signs with the Yankees. Paula, I do not. Actually, Paula, to give you a little bit of a downer on that, I heard that the Yankees basically told Juan Soto that we're the Yankees with or without you. So that was what I read earlier. So she says, great show, guys. Sorry I wasn't here much. Always enjoy the show. Just not feeling well. Well, Paula, we hope you get to feeling well. Because I'm sure you got to cook a turkey dinner for somebody. All right, Mitch, thank you very much for being here. All of our fans, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you. You can see us on YouTube. You can see us on Facebook. And I think we're going to do some shorts this week, right, Mitch?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. We'll put those out on our Twitter account as well. Thank you guys very much for staying with us. This is the Sportz Truth. I am the Cleat Geek Mike Valentine. That's Mitch Moneybags Middlebrooks right over there. We certainly appreciate you. And we will see you next week. And as we say always, before my computer completely dies on its battery here, the only thing that's fair in life is a baseball hit between the third and first base line. Good evening again.